So we were wondering where to go for a walk this evening, so we decided to come into Palma and we're just going to have a walk along the Paseo Maritimo. The sun's going down, it's about 7 o'clock, so as the sun goes behind the hills we'll have a little bit of shade and hopefully the temperature will go down a little bit. It's a very popular place to go for walks, and so we're just going to join all the people that are doing the same as we are. And there seems to be a nice little breeze at the moment as well, so that should be nice as we walk along. Okay, so let's get going. Been yet another hot day. It's end of July 2021, and we've had some really high temperatures over the past few days, and with the humidity it gets really sticky. So going for a walk, we need to go in the evenings. Just walking across. I'll join her as well, I think. Sorry? Oh, I thought you were trying to find some shady spots. So if we just have a look along the walkway here, the Paseo Maritimo, there is a little bit of shade as we walk along, and the sun will go behind the building soon, but it also means we can actually see the boats, and they're quite pretty to look at. I think I'll go back and get a little bit closer to the boats. Some really big ones over there. The one that looks as though it's got a greenhouse on the top has been there almost as long as we have, and used to be owned by a Mexican. There was actually two of them identical. The Paraiso. That one's the Paraiso, I think. I can't remember the other name, the other one. Yeah. I think it was a Mexican billionaire that owned them, and he used to have one for himself and one for his guests. At least that's what it appeared to be. Not sure who owns them now. They still have the same name, that one does. All along here, this quay now is charter boats, so people will come and charter a boat, either a day boat or go on a cruise. It's a big business here, chartering boats, but obviously one that's been really hammered by the COVID. During the COVID times as well, they've changed the parking and they've moved the cycle track, which now they seem to have two cycle tracks. I'm a bit confused. So they moved the cycle track to where the cars used to park. They closed one of the lanes, so instead of 3 lanes on the Paseo Maritimo, we now only have 2 lanes. It's a bit tricky when you're parking and getting out of your parking space.
See if there's any fish around.
Usually are. It's a little bit breezy, so it's a little bit choppy. Too close. I think we're actually a little bit early. Paseo Maritimo looks very quiet. It's not usually this quiet, and maybe we're a little bit too early to go for a walk because the sun is still up a little bit. People wouldn't come out for a walk in the sun. Mad Dog's an Englishman though. Here we are. the road we have Tito's, used to be Tito's Palace. At one time the most famous nightclub in the Mediterranean, where all the big stars used to come and perform, overlooking the Bay of Palma. Well, it's now been sold to I believe a shoe company.
Camper.
Yeah, the same people who own Camper, but it's a family that own lots of things, very, very wealthy family on the island. So Tito's has gone from there now, and they're not going to open it as a disco or a nightclub. They're probably going to turn it into some sort of accommodation. That remains to be seen, what they're allowed to do with the premises. Tito's name is not going to disappear though. It's actually going to be reborn in Magaluf as part of the BCM. So the lower part of BCM will become Tito's, and it's reported that it will be expensive, so it won't be a place for us to go to.
Fast, isn't it?
There's a speed limit here, so we won't be going too fast. In the past there have been moorings all along here at this time of the year. There have been various regattas, and it looks as though none of that's happening this year. It actually look very quiet along here. Well, listening to the news today, the British government have actually announced that they're going to change the rules for people like us going back to the UK. So the current rules, we are supposed to quarantine for 10 days when we go back, even though we have both vaccinations, and that rule's going. And so beginning of August, under the current restrictions, we will be able to go back and not quarantine. All this uncertainty has meant that it had already cancelled Anita's flight. She was due to leave tomorrow, and then therefore would have had to go into this 10-day quarantine. I'm due to go next week, and I've already changed my flight, and we'll try and arrange something else. But there's still a big uncertainty, because Spain does have very high numbers, and the Baleares in particular, and Ibiza is incredibly high. So there is a big concern that the Baleares might be put on this Amber Plus list, which will mean we'd have to go into quarantine. So I'm holding off booking any flights or making any plans. In fact, our only plan at the moment is to have a holiday here in Mallorca. Just seeing one of our neighbours. Often comes out, stroll with his friends. That's the time of day. So just having a quick look on the other side. Restaurant over there, the Palma. It's more of a cafe, but it's somewhere which we used to go just before going to the theatre. The theatre is just up the road, and the Palma tends to be open all the time, so you can go and have a bite to eat before going off to the theatre. I'm just looking for the Belvedere Hotel. It's one of the questions that's been asked is what happens if you get COVID over here, and if you have COVID or you've been in close proximity to somebody, therefore you're not allowed to go on an aeroplane, they put you into quarantine. And one of the hotels that they've been using for quarantine was the Belvedere Hotel here on the Paseo Maritimo. That may be the fact that it's full, but some people have been told to stay in their own hotels. So I've been reading today about a family of 4 that were told to stay in their room for 10 days until they got a negative test. And these rooms are hotel rooms, so they're not really equipped for people to live in. The particular rooms had no facilities for making a cup of tea or even having a fridge to keep your food cool. And you can't go out and buy food, so you're relying on somebody going to buy it for you. And there have been some expats and some groups here who've been organising that. One of the hotels here on the Paseo Maritimo was earmarked as a COVID bridge hotel for people to stay in until they had the negative test. It's where all the students went who were partying at the end of term and ended up having to go into quarantine. Some 250 of them. They were then put on a specially chartered ship to take them back to the mainland. I did hear of another group, another couple, where the husband was told to go home and the wife was told to stay because she tested positive. I thought it was curious that they'd actually separated those. And these are the party boats, which still exist. But from what I've read, if you go on, there is no alcohol being served and you can't really party in the way that people used to party. Are we alright going that way into the sun, my dear?
As long as we're not in the sun too much.
Look in the shade. So these boats, which were the party boats, not really as much fun as they used to be. So I read of a German tourist who was not very happy with the whole situation. Felt as though he'd been ripped off. Someone else was asking me what about clubs and dancing and things. Well, at the moment our rules give you a curfew at 1 AM. So at 1 AM you have to be pretty much back at your hotel, tucked up in bed. You can't go to the beach. You can't be with anyone that's not part of your family or part of your household. So you're either going to be on your own somewhere or maybe just tucked up in bed in your hotel. So it's not really the party that young people might be expecting. So I'm also the wrong person to ask because I'm not always tucked up in bed by 1 AM. So
I think we're quite tucked up, don't we, in this weather?
Well, not tucked up, not at doesn't really go much below about 25 degrees at night at the moment, so yeah, we're not really tucked up. These are some of the other boats that it's like a little speedboat that give you a bit of a rough ride as you go out. And then give you a bit more of a sailing experience. It's probably more my thing, a little bit more sedate. So parties and party boats and all of that sort of thing isn't really happening. It's another one, Magic. It's another party boat, catamaran. Not the experience people are expecting. There are still cruises that will take you around the island or different parts of the island, and we've seen big queues for those in places like Palma and Majorca, and we do have them here in Palma as well. And that's something I did fancy doing until I saw the number of people that were getting on, and it all looked as though it was a bit crowded. So, not really for me. So one or two of these boats here. But take you either around the port or we'll take you a little bit further afield. Restaurants are open more or less as normal now. You are limited to how many you can have at a table, but that's 8 outside. It's only 4 inside, so if you're a group of more than 4 and you want to sit inside, you've really got to have 2 tables. But most people will be sitting outside anyway because it's really hot, unless you want air conditioning. The food smells good.
Barbecue again.
Yeah, always good to have a barbecue. But we're not eating out tonight because we've got leftovers to have for dinner. Some food we need to finish off, and we're out tomorrow night. And we're out on Saturday. We've got a busy few days. This grey little bit of the Paseo Maritimo is actually for electric scooters and maybe for electric bicycles. They've become very, very popular here, so people use them to get about the island and get about the town, but they do move very, very quickly. Talking about the hotel for quarantine being the Belvedere. That's the Belvedere in front, big white block, and 250 students were accommodated in there, and they've got quite ingenious about getting alcohol up to the rooms. They were lowering down a rope or something and picking the drinks up and ordering them from local bars. It was all very well done. I can see people in there, but it's not a holiday. It's a bit like being in prison. You can see the outside, but you can't use it.
Yeah.
A hotel that's not actually a hotel. And we are in the shade now, and it is
Good.
much more pleasant. A little bit further on from the Belvedere Hotel is the Costa Azul, and that is open as a hotel, so people are staying there on holiday. And I said they've cut off a lane of this side of the motorway, the Paseo Maritimo. They've done the same on the other side, because during the pandemic there weren't restaurants and bars were not allowed to use the inside, so they cut out a whole lane of the Paseo Maritimo and used that as terrace space so that they could increase the area. People could sit outside, and they've not taken that away. So all along the Paseo Maritimo, one of the lanes is gone, so it's just 2 lanes on each side, and on the land side it's used as terrace space for the bars and the restaurants. You actually end up sitting in the road. It's not ideal. see if we go on a little bit further, we're going to be walking only in the sun. So I think maybe we're getting towards the end of our walk and we're going to actually turn around and go back.
And have a drink somewhere.
And have a drink somewhere. So we might be ending the video here, or we might be going for a drink somewhere. But whatever we do, I hope you've enjoyed this, and we'll see you a little bit later. Bye for now.
Bye.
I need to manage to persuade me to stop for a drink.
As I do.
And we've stopped in a very significant bar actually. It's opposite the auditorium, which is a theatre here, a big theatre. It's actually the first bar I ever had a drink at in Mallorca. When I came over for my job interview, this was the first place we stopped when we'd come from the airport. It was quite late at night and we stopped here just to have a drink. So this is the first bar right next to the auditorium. The other significance is Anita used to put on lots of shows here, and this is where we would go in the interval before or after the shows. So it was a bit of a collecting place for all the people who were involved with the shows. So cheers.
Cheers.
And we look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye for now.
Bye.
So we've just had a drink at the bar across from the auditorium. So this is the auditorium, that's the entrance to the auditorium. And it's the theatre that we go to quite often for shows. And they have a really good range of shows on. It's just some that are coming up, and we've just seen that John Cleese is coming in 2022.
Yes.
That's a long wait. But yeah, so they have all sorts of things on here at the auditorium. If you're looking to have a yacht, one of these mega yachts, then right in front of us we've got Master Yachts. They will arrange to have one built for you. Richard Masters there will organise everything from design right through to having it shipped to you wherever you want it shipped to in the world. And it's getting a little bit later in the evening. I've not got a watch, so I don't know what time. I've left my watch at home. But some of the...
8:15.
8:15. So some of the restaurants are beginning to start filling up. Bars will fill up later. We've just had quite a nice drink. Buenas. I was saying as we were walking along the Paseo on the opposite side that there were these areas that have been cordoned off on the road. So these are now available to the bars. So this one looks pretty empty now. But I guess if the bar here opens up, then this is the area they can use. Don't know if it is going to open up. A lot of these bars open much later in the evening, which means the curfew of 1 o'clock in the morning is not so good for them. So this bit of the videos are called a reprise, I think. I didn't intend to do any more videoing. As we started walking along, we started to see things that you might like, including the auditorium to start with. So here's another restaurant, all just getting ready to open up, really. More of a bar than a restaurant, I think. See the bar setting up, cordoning off there, a bit of the Paseo Maritimo. So they're just getting ready to open up now, 8:30 in the evening. And the sun is still up, so I imagine across the road you can see that the sun is quite bright over there. But we chose to walk back this way because it's a bit cooler and maybe a little bit more interesting things to see. shops open here as well. This is the Palma that I mentioned. So when we go into the auditorium, sometimes we'll have a snack here. It's really just a cafe, but it serves us well. These hotels have changed the name, so I get a bit confused again. So this is now the Palma, it's the Meliá Palma Marina.
It used to be Victoria.
No, it's not the Victoria, but it was not, it had another name. But it's a very nice hotel. I have actually been in there, been to conferences in there in the past. It is a nice breeze. This is a... Oh yes, this hasn't changed. This is Campalut. This is a restaurant we have eaten at before. And now we do open out to where the Meliá Victoria is. And there's a big ice cream place here, which we've stopped with our grandchildren.
Very popular and very cheap.
A few cars coming down here, so we'll wait. Oh, now we can cross. There used to be a restaurant just up at the top there. It looks like it's a gaming hall now. We have had meals up there as well in the past, particularly with reunions of the Baleares International School groups. It's the Gran Meliá Victoria Hotel.
Still has a king or Kaiser. He was driving with it.
That's actually the entrance, or the Paseo Maritimo entrance. It's got a much grander entrance on the other side. And there used to be a disco down here, which was owned by a friend of ours. Don't think it exists anymore. One place I am particularly interested in going to eat at some point, we've not done it yet, just in front of us, it's called Mercat. Mercat is like a market, 1930. It used to be the 1930 restaurant, and it was really nice inside, but I believe that this has now changed its character and it's more like a market inside, so you go to a different stall and get different food. And we go to one in Palma, which is amazing, and we must do a video there at some point, because it's just like market stalls. You walk around and you just choose the food that you fancy at the time, and you choose your main courses or your starters, and you can go to a different type of cuisine. So you might start off with Chinese, and then you go to Indian, and then you go to Spanish Mallorquin. I don't think Thai. Actually, I don't think there was any Indian in there. I'm not even sure there was any Chinese actually. But this is a similar idea, and I would like to give that a go
When it's open.
when it is open. So I hope it all comes back. And this is a bridge that takes you from the hotel to their sort of social area. I think I've actually been there, but I think that's where there's a swimming pool and entertainment. So with the current restrictions, all of these bars, all of these restaurants have to close at 1 a.m. and most of them are only just beginning to get going at 1 a.m. This is another restaurant we've been to a number of times in the past and really enjoy. It's actually right up there. Got a fantastic view over the bay, the Bahia Mediterranean. The Masons have had a few ladies' nights up there, and we wanted to have our ladies' night up there, but it was way too expensive. It was going to be 10,000 pesetas a head. So that's a lot of money a long time ago.
Just go in Yachts.
This is a new pizzeria I've not been to.
These are all new, aren't they, these places?
Oh, and tapas bar. We always like a tapas bar. Not tonight. Resist, resist, resist. We need to go in search of our car. That's a nice mural. I quite like that one. The gates there is a public park, so on other occasions we've actually walked through that park. It is really quite pretty and does give you some shade. There's places for you to sit down and just enjoy the nature. And now I think this park gets a little bit boring, dear.
Yes.
So now I think we are going to say the final farewell.
Had a lovely walk this evening.
So we're going to actually cross the road in a moment and get to our car. Hope we haven't walked past it. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already subscribed, hit that subscribe button and the bell, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. So bye for now.
Bye again. Bye.